Now, you may recall that 3 days after Irma hit, people started dying in a South Florida nursing home. Got a lot of attention at the time. 14 people lost their lives there. It was a chaotic scene, a horrible tragedy. But like a lot of hurricane aftermath, when the reporters left and the adrenaline kind of wore off for people, the residents were the ones left to pick up the pieces. And that's what Randy Kaye found when she looked into what exactly happened at that nursing home and what's happened since. Here's her report.
It is one of the most upsetting parts of this is that my mom passed away under such circumstances. The temperature gauge was not able to even read her temperature until about 15 minutes after her time of death, and it was 110 degrees.
When Jeff Nova first heard his mother Gail had died after Hurricane Irma hit, he could hardly believe it. She was, so he thought, under the watchful care of nurses and staff at the rehabilitation center at Hollywood Hills in Florida. Then came the news that 7 others had also died on the same day in the same facility. That was a year ago, and still Jeff and his family don't have answers or, in their mind, justice.
I want to know who's responsible. I'm hopeful that in this investigation they come out with the truth of really what happened.
In all, 14 patients from this facility died in the aftermath of the storm. The medical examiner found that 12 of the 14 died from heat exposure. Many of the victims' body temperatures topped 106 degrees. 12 have been ruled homicide by the medical examiner, including Jeff's 71-year-old mother. 12 homicides, but to this day, a year later, no charges. It all began when Irma hit Sunday, September 10th last year. At around 3 p.m., strong winds downed a tree, which knocked out the nursing home's air conditioning system. Many of the patients were moved into hallways next to fans and spot coolers.
Why they wouldn't have evacuated if the temperature was that great and continuing to rise, someone, I have to assume, had that responsibility and decided not to take it.
Instead, all 141 patients remained inside for days, sweating as workers tried to manage the situation on their own. Law enforcement says temperatures inside the facility climbed to at least 99 degrees. Still, several doctors who visited the facility to check on their patients testified that it felt warm but not unbearably hot, and they thought residents were safe. Attorney George Silva represents 5 families suing the nursing home and Florida Power and Light.
We're talking about days where these individuals were deteriorating and suffocating to death.
Administrators claim they had repeatedly called Florida Power and Light, state regulators, and the governor's office, and say they were assured the air conditioning would be restored soon.
This isn't a light switch that the patients were doing fine one moment and then the next second they weren't doing fine. This was a very slow, grueling death.
This video, recorded the night after the storm, shows the conditions. A fan next to one resident's bed, a larger fan in the hallway to keep air moving, and this, a woman laying naked in the hallway on a gurney. The woman who took this video told CNN that same woman was wearing clothes the day before, but had disrobed to try and keep cool. Representatives of the nursing home said it was safest for the patients to shelter in place, given the danger in moving elderly patients. This is the Hollywood Hills Rehabilitation Center. It is right across the street from one of the largest hospitals in the state, Memorial Regional Hospital, which never lost power during the storm. It remained fully operational with air conditioning, all just steps away. Instead, an emergency unfolded.
911, what is your emergency?
8 calls to 911, but only one nurse mentioned that there wasn't any air conditioning in the nursing home. Also, not a single caller suggested an evacuation was needed.
I'm calling because there's a patient who's on cardiac arrest for blue, respiratory failure. I saw her slouch over. I realized that she's not breathing.
Residents were dying, one after another. After 3 patients were rushed to the emergency room at Memorial Regional Hospital with extraordinarily high temperatures, doctors and nurses chose to immediately evacuate the nursing home. The New York Times reported some residents were so hot, their skin was steaming.
There were patients that were not living any longer that were upstairs on the 2nd floor when we entered the building.
Nobody from the rehabilitation center would speak with us, but court documents provided by lawyers representing the nursing home say that Florida's Agency for Healthcare Administration never suggested evacuation and instead told them to call 911 if residents developed emergency conditions. The rehab center did call 911, but not until it was too late for a dozen residents. The governor's office says at no time did anyone from the nursing home indicate that conditions had become dangerous or that patients were at risk. And families say Florida Power and Light is to blame too, for not showing up until long after the nursing home had been evacuated, despite numerous calls for help.
This nursing home was not attended to despite multiple calls, multiple emails, and multiple requests for assistance.
FPL said in a statement that it urged customers to call 911 if it was a life-threatening situation.
To think that help was so close and yet sadly so far for these individuals is really, really disturbing and troubling.
Jeff Nova still struggles thinking about his mother's final moments and wants to make sure she didn't die in vain.
You haven't given up on justice for your mother.
I believe that there has to be justice in this situation, like all situations. These events don't go away and get brushed under the rug. Some closure has to occur, some changes have to occur so that this event doesn't get replicated.
Randy joins me now from outside the Florida hospital where those patients could have been taken. So where do things stand now with the investigation?
Anderson, it's still an active investigation. Hollywood police and the state attorney's office are still looking into this. And we understand that they have video surveillance from inside the nursing home, which shows what was going on inside. And it's something that they will likely use to build a case for criminal charges if those do come. The documents filed by the state agency says that this surveillance video shows that the employees inside the nursing home weren't very active. They weren't really monitoring the patients. Of course, the nursing home disputes that. They said that they were taking the best care they could of the patients, certainly trying to keep them comfortable. But keep in mind, Anderson, we understand from the documents that we have that this video shows one person, one patient inside that nursing home who died, hadn't been seen by anyone in their room for 7 hours. So it certainly doesn't sound like they were being monitored, not until a housekeeper entered that room. The video, we're also told, shows employees and residents visibly sweating. The nursing home, of course, has said that it was more or less comfortable inside, mostly comfortable as they put it. But in terms of charges, Anderson, the lawyer who we spoke to says we could see involuntary or voluntary manslaughter, maybe even reckless endangerment. But whether or not those charges come, Anderson, of course, so many questions. I'm standing right here in front of this hospital. I can see the front door of that nursing home. Hard to imagine they didn't evacuate these people and move them over to a working hospital where they could have saved their lives.
Yeah, Randy, we'll continue to follow it. Thanks.